right, I am super excited for this next session. We are going to be talking about, the title of this is The Future of Agencies and Agencies of the Future. And I just want to say thank you to Mark Reed, who is the CEO of WPP, for joining us for this chat. As a 20 plus year veteran of the agency world myself, I am going to teleport back to kind of the stuff that we talked about back in the agency world. And I think I'm going to start actually with the theme that we're going to be talking about today. The theme of ALM is the Great Reset. And we believe, and I think you'd probably agree, that the confluence of the pandemic and the resetting of technology and privacy and data gives us a once-in-a-career opportunity to rethink how we go to market and how, as an industry, we operate. I also think that new business pitches, which I enjoyed a tremendous amount, are the best of what agencies have to offer. So I want to start the question with just a trip back to, I think it was December, when you were pitching the Walgreens Boots Alliance, and you retained that business, so congratulations. If you could tell the audience a little bit about that pitch and the kinds of things that the client was looking for, and how that potentially indicates where the client-agency relationship is going in 2021 and beyond.
Great. Well, thanks, David. And as a 20-year agency veteran, you'll know that we spent 20 years discussing the agency of the future and the
Yes.
agency model of the future, and we'll probably be discussing it in 20 years' time. Maybe not the two of us, but you and my successors will both be talking about it. Look, I think the Great Reset is a good title for the conference, and I think I'd make the observation that when times are good, when you're on an upward curve, you tend to continue to do the same things. It's when times are tough, which they have been over the last year, when you try and do something different. And certainly, we at WPP, and I know across our industry, we've done a lot of things differently. We sent 100,000 people to work from home over a weekend. We've learned to collaborate with our clients much more quickly and do work that would have taken 8 weeks in 8 days, or indeed in 8 hours. And a lot of clients have looked to do things differently. And actually, the Walgreens Boots pitch, if you like, or their review is a good example of that. We started working with them, I guess, just over 3 years, and we were very focused there on sort of consolidation and brand integration and efficiency. But actually, Vineet Mehra, who was then the CMO, came to say, look, I need to totally transform our organization. I need a partner who can help us transform. And what I want to do, I want to put data at the heart of the reinvention of WBA to create personalized experiences and personalized communications for our customers, to create a greater sense of sort of customer intimacy and drive efficiency in their marketing. And that was really the question they posed to us, and we came back to them with, I think, a much more integrated team structure than we had before, with a lot more people with data and technology experience, but interestingly also people with really strong creative credentials. And I also observe it's one of the few pitches where communications, i.e. PR, has really been integral to the offer. And I think that's something that we're going to see increasingly in the future.
Yeah. So I'll just double click on that for one more minute. So that sounds right. That nothing that you said sounds something I wouldn't have expected. First party data. So I think I had read that Walgreens Boots was looking for 80% of their, or something thereabouts, of their media expenditure to be based on first-party data. And this is a topic that I'm sure you're having with lots of your clients. Talk about what role WPP plays in a client request like that.
Well, look, our job in this case is to help them connect their first-party data that sits on their servers into their marketing, so into their media plans, so out into the world of Google or out into the world of Facebook, or into their apps, so that it personalizes the experience someone has when they go to My Walgreens. So it's really, they're seeing us as the sort of data integrator, and we're building a data spine, if you like, to connect that data out into the world. Now, I make one observation about first-party data is there's many types of data out there in the world, and first-party data is just one of the data elements that you need to optimize a campaign, and sometimes it can be extremely valuable. And I'd argue in a case like Walgreens Boots, where they know a lot about their consumers and trying to personalize experience, it is. Often there are many other types of data that are just as valuable.
Got it. I'll ask two last questions on this Walgreens Boots, and then we'll move off to another topic. Retailers as media channels is something that we're seeing kind of take off. You can pick anyone, CVS, Walgreens, Macy's, et cetera, becoming media networks in and of their own right. Are you seeing that across the landscape, and what role does that play as you kind of architect a solution for them?
Yeah, look, clearly they are. But, retailers always were media owners. They were always trade dollars for shelf space, right? Yeah. And what they're trying to do, I'd argue, is double dip. They want to dip in the trade budget. Oh, no, we'd like to dip in the brand budget over here. Yes. And our job on behalf of our clients is to say, well, we're only going to let you double dip if there's value in both of those things. Now, Amazon has started from scratch, so they don't have that same sense, and they look enviously at Amazon's advertising business, 100%, effectively a 100% margin business, and see if they can recreate it. I don't think they'll recreate it as quickly if they with both trade and brand expenditure. So we have to be the custodians, if you like, of our packaged goods clients' budgets to make sure that where we do spend money in the channels, we are delivering value. But there are many ways in which we can deliver value, and I've no doubt that as e-commerce platforms grow, clients will be spending increasing amounts of money, advertising, if that's a word we're allowed to use today, on their clients' websites and mobile platforms to drive trade. It's the the digital equivalent of what we call in England the shelf wobbler.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start this next question with a little story that I have back in my agency days. Outcomes-based compensation, remuneration is something that we've been talking about for quite some time, and I will never forget. We had a client that was based on you achieve X, you get paid Y, you achieve more than X, you get paid Y plus something else. And we blew it out of the park. We were so successful. And then the client was kind of like, well, wait a second. We don't want to pay you X plus Y plus 10. So predictability on fees and cost is kind of the...
They tried to renegotiate the deal.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Right. So we didn't know that you were going to be so successful. So talk a little bit about that. I mean, remuneration based on performance and outcomes sounds great in practice, or I mean, is it in concept, but is it really good in practice from your perspective?
I think it's good for agency and client, or client and agency, to have their remuneration aligned, and it was a key part of the response on WBA. But my observation would be the same as yours, that when there are situations where we can blow things out the park, we normally find that there's a renegotiation on its way. But you know what? That's the lesson in business, right? So we need to deliver continuous improvement to clients, and if you can continue to move things on, the next year you should have gone and shot it out even further from the park, when you negotiate. So I think that that's fine, actually.
Okay, got it. Let's talk about holding companies have been using a lot of capital to aggregate data assets for some time. And obviously that's a big race to kind of differentiation, and data is the kind of the lifeblood of the business along with technology. There's a big change coming to our industry, as I'm sure you know, the loss of third-party identifiers, IDFA and Apple changes. How are you counseling your clients in light of the kind of changing infrastructure, or how is WPP using data differently than others in your perspective?
Look, I think the internet was something of the Wild West when it came to data, and the cookie became a way of hoovering up lots of data in ways that consumers didn't really understand it. So that's not good. So we have to have privacy that respects consumers' data. It also allowed a lot of sort of easy marketing. I click on a holiday website and I get followed for ads for that destination around the internet for 48 hours on a sort of decay curve. That's probably not that sophisticated, but it's quite effective, by the way. Witness Criteo, and witness the bleating from those companies, those platforms that aren't able to use data in that way. I'd say that, I was talking to actually the people that run Xaxis yesterday, and we think that less than 10% of Xaxis media is optimized based on cookies. There's a lot we can do by knowing the effectiveness of a channel, the time of day, the weather, the content that people are looking at. So we don't just need to have cookies. So I don't think the elimination of cookies is going to turn digital back into analog media. We're doing a lot of work in connected television, and actually we're finding that postcode-based targeting may sound old-fashioned, actually quite effective. So we can really apply AI to drive quite a lot of the sort of signal intensity that you would have got from the cookie in different ways, while respecting consumer behavior, consumer privacy. And I think the web will end up in a better place as a result.
Yeah, that's interesting. There's lots of folks that are retesting, going back to contextual, to cohort-based marketing, kind of comparing and contrasting what's the opportunity outside of just cookie-based marketing. So yeah, I think that you're right. It will have a change, but I don't think it's the end of the world. Let's go back to the early days of the pandemic. I'll just give you a tip of the hat. I think WPP was ahead of the curve in terms of preparing your clients in the early days, agility, flexibility, kind of aligning your go-to-market strategies to help clients. Do you have a specific example of something that you did at WPP that you think was a good indication of kind of helping clients in the early days?
Well, I certainly think, Lindsay Patterson, our Chief Client Officer, really collected a lot of examples of what clients were. And, it drove a lot of collaboration across the company. We shared ideas of the types of things that clients were doing. And I said to our people, I said, you've got to get to the CEO before the CFO. That's the critical task. With ideas on the value of marketing. And our business has been much more resilient, I think, during the pandemic than anyone would have expected. Now, part of it is the types of clients that we work with. But, back in June, I think GroupM was expecting ad spend to be down 12% this year. I think they're now expected to be down 6% this year. So it's been much, much more resilient than any of us anticipated. And I think that demonstrates the value of what we've done, demonstrates our ability to help clients communicate with their customers at a really important time. And I think many clients did understand the value, if they could afford it, of continuing to spend through this period. And I think as we look forward to the second quarter, we are going to see, as we said in our Capital Markets Day back in December, pretty strong pickup in marketing expenditure generally across the industry.
From your lips to God's ears, Mark. I hope that happens. That's great. That's very optimistic. And we're seeing the same thing actually in the digital ecosystem, obviously, which is the IAB.
Oh, the digital business was so strong in the fourth quarter, right? Yeah. And why is it strong? It's strong because clients can spend money quickly. They can pivot quickly. They can see the results. They probably move quite a lot of their business. We had e-commerce clients say, just like spend as much money as you can to drive e-commerce sales in the fourth quarter, right? So I think there's been a rapid pivot, and the benefit of digital media is not just that's where consumers are. It is, the speed with which you can do it, the agility with which you can do it, the measurability. So, there's some inherent advantages I think that traditional media can learn from in terms of how they trade and how they transact, and some of the sort of more kind of sort of dinosaur-like traditions, early booking deadlines and these sorts of things, they're not going to help in the long run, would be my view.
Yeah, very interesting. We had Christian Jewell actually came and chatted with our board not too long ago and was talking about some of the antiquated go-to-market propositions, and he said exactly the same thing. Let's pivot entirely to a different topic. Diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI. Something that we as an industry, we've been talking about it for a long, long time. It has been, I might go so far to say it's been a checkbox item. It has moved from a checkbox item to it's a moral imperative, it's a business imperative, and it drives the bottom line. So talk a little bit about what WPP is doing across your network to drive the DEI initiative forward.
Yeah, look, I think if we have talked about it a long time, maybe we haven't taken action as forcefully for a long time. And I think we probably focused, certainly, I thought maybe we focused too much not too much, but more on gender diversity than racial diversity. And clearly, the events of last year, really brought racial diversity to the fore. We very quickly looked at those recommendations that the 600 and rising, now 1,200 Black advertising professionals made. We looked at their 12 recommendations and basically said that we will adopt all of them. And we made a lot of progress against each of them, from putting targets or setting targets as part of our leaders' incentive plans, to agreeing to release data as soon as we have it collected, which will be relatively early in this year, setting up employee resource groups, to shifting the types of places we recruit people from, to looking at how we get interns. So systematically, top to bottom, we're looking at the structure of WPP and of our agencies to make sure that we create, two things, an inclusive environment, like a place where people feel that they can belong and be themselves. And secondly, representation at all layers of the company, so that we have the right level of representation at the right level, and that people are fairly and properly promoted. And those are really the two metrics that I focused on.
That's great. That's great to hear. I came across in my prep for this conversation a video that Ogilvy worked on with Refinery 29 and Girl Up, which was around Kamala Harris and her ascension to the vice president. Talk a little bit about that. It made me choke up a little bit. It was very emotional and very, very well done. In fact, why don't we take a look right now?
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Kamala Davy Harris, do solemnly swear.
I, Kamala Davy Harris, do solemnly swear.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I take this obligation freely.
That I take this obligation freely.
Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
That I will well and faithfully discharge.
That I will well and faithfully discharge.
The duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
The duties of the office upon which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Oh, boy.
This is a fantastic film. We should really be playing that, not listening to me. Maybe we can play it at the end. But it was done in 8 hours. I mean, someone had the idea before the inauguration, and we had the idea, and we went to some clients who ended up taking it to the UN, and they adopted it and went to Refinery 29, and they gave it space. But it was one, creative leader's inspiration. But I think it sort of reflects what we can do as an industry to change perceptions and help overcome racism in society. And we work with a number of our clients on similar issues. We work with Procter & Gamble and Mark Pritchard and the team there have really been at the forefront of pushing for sort of racial diversity in the work and in the people who do the work. And both of those things are important.
Yeah, it was a great piece of work, and maybe as part of this the conference, we can share it with the audience. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
I've got let's dream for a moment. We've got two last questions. Our time is running short, but let's dream if we were creating a holding company today from the ground up. So no legacy systems, processes, nothing holding us back. What would you do different? Like what would your ideal holding company be like if you started it from scratch?
No, look, there's no legacy at WPP, obviously, David. But I think that look, when you start from scratch, like any startup, you have the legacy, you have the luxury of not doing things in a particular way. Mm-hmm. But you also have the disadvantage of lack of client relationships, breadth of offer. And I think that what big clients need is both, the range and breadth of services that WPP offer, as well as, the speed and agility of the startup. So I think that, we may end up creating something that looks a little bit like WPP does today. But I would embed, speed, agility, talent, creativity, technology, data, all of those things into it. And I think we have to learn, what was that book? Elephants and dancing. We have to learn to move quickly in our business. And I think if we do, we can deliver, great value to our clients.
Yeah, that's great. Great answer. Let's put our crystal ball on. A year from today, March 2022.
Yeah.
How will a business have changed? What changes will have stuck? What would you like to change? Talk a little bit about, in a year from now, what does this business look like?
Well, I think it will probably look a bit more like it does today than it did before the pandemic. I mean, let's face it, by the time things get back to normal, we'll have forgotten what normal is. So I suspect that we won't be going in the office 5 days a week, but we will be going in more than 1 day a week, right?
Yeah.
I suspect that I hope we'll continue to work with our clients in the way we work today, that, much more directly. We'll use video. I mean, the great thing about the last year, I've seen, I think 75% more clients in the last year than I did in the same period the year before, all without ever really leaving my desk. That's fantastic. We won 40% more new business last year as WPP than we did the previous year. Wow. Because we lent into the technology and we lent into this way of doing things. We've got a big pitch tomorrow. We're bringing people in from around the world, and we won't consume a single air mile. So that's fantastic, isn't it? So I think that those types of things will change. Digital media will definitely be even more in the ascendant than it is today. I think it's $3 in digital for every dollar in analog in the UK. I think it's 2 to 1 in the US. It's close to 14 to 1 today in China. And I suspect that we'll be further towards the 3 to 1 in the US. It's not going to go backwards. So I think the future is bright for digital media. I think connected television is really going to have its day in the sun, because are going to be looking for ways to talk to people more directly through really engaging video, which is something we do really powerfully. So I think that the world will look, hopefully, the sun will be shining. We'll be able to go on vacation, and life will be a little bit back to normal. It's been a tough year, right, for lots of people, and people have made the observation. This does feel like the fifth quarter of 2020.
Yes.
But it will get better.
Yes, and I think on that optimism, I think that is the perfect place to put a period into this conversation. I want to say thank you for sharing some time with us. Thank you for your insights. Thank you for everything that you're doing to drive this business forward, and look forward to a good year for WPP.
Thanks very much, David. And the 3 values of WPP are open, optimistic, and extraordinary. So hopefully we live up to that. And thanks to everyone for watching. Thanks to our people out there for all your hard work, and our clients out there for their support.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.